Hey everyone, what's up? It's Babylonius from peakofserenity.com here with a video guide to help maybe explain a little bit about the Kyrian ability Weapons of Order, how to open with it, how to use it as you're going throughout the fight, and how it differs from using things regularly. I'll primarily be talking about single target, and again, this is really based for Kyrians with Weapons of Order, so if you're not a Kyrian, this is going to be a completely useless video for you. If you like my UI and stuff like that, there's a lot of information in the description below. Also information about how you can support me and my channel, the website, get more additional information, stuff like that. So check that out below. So to get started, this is the advanced Kyrian page on peakofserenity.com, where we explain a little bit how to use Weapons of Order. For those of you who don't know, if you're watching this video and you don't know what a Kyrian is one of the covenants for Shadowlands, but realistically, I don't know why you'd be watching this video if you don't know what it is. But yeah, so being Kyrian gives you access to Weapons of Order, and what Weapons of Order does is on a 2-minute cooldown, which is perfect because it lines up with Zuen, which is kind of our other, a big part of our burst damage. It gives you a 30-second buff if you're using the Strike with Clarity Conduit. It is a 35-second buff, and during that time it increases your mastery. Additionally, in addition to the mastery increase, Rising Sun Kick, anytime you use Rising Sun Kick, it puts a buff on you. That buff reduces the chi cost of abilities by 1 for 5 seconds. Additionally, Blackout Kick reduces the cooldowns of Rising Sun Kick and Fist of Fury by an additional 1 second. So it's 1 second normally, so during Weapons of Order it's 2 seconds. And that's really the big key. The mastery is nice, but the Rising Sun Kick chi reduction and the Blackout Kick cooldown reduction, those are the big things. That's what makes the Kyrian ability so incredibly strong. Like we talked about in this little paragraph right here, I won't read too much. It's very difficult to kind of give Joe Schmo down the street, the best order to do things for Weapons of Order. It will differ for everybody. It will differ based on what talents. It'll differ based on whether or not you have Bloodlust or don't, have Invoker's Delight, which you should have, or don't. Different haste percentages, stuff like that. So this will be as close as I can get to a general guide for most of these situations. But again, it can be very difficult, so you kind of just have to look at the priorities and practice. The big key is practicing. And there is a way to kind of simplify things a little bit. So to look at the priority first, the biggest priority is Rising Sun Kick. Rising Sun Kick is our big cooldown, our big, damage ability when it comes to single target. Because it has its chi cost reduced by 1, you want to try and fit Rising Sun Kick inside its own buff, right? So the goal is to get Rising Sun Kick down to within that 5-second window. And that requires some haste. And I'll talk about more of that in a minute. So what we get is that's our highest priority. When it's up, that's what you want to use. You want to try and use it as often as possible so you can get it on cooldown and get it available to use again as often as possible. Spinning Crane Kick is good. It's free damage. You want to be able to use that. And you're also using a lot of abilities that can proc it. So you might get quite a few of them as you're going through things. So you want to try and use that as best you can. Blackout Kick, as long as it won't break mastery. A lot of people are confused when they see Weapons of Order. They think, oh, I just want to spam Blackout Kick in between. You don't want to do that. You don't need to do that. It's not necessary. Even at super high, insanely high haste levels, it's not necessary to do that. The more haste you have, the less you actually need to Blackout Kick in order to get more Rising Sun Kicks into the rotation. Whirling Dragon Punch, as usual, you want to use that when it's up. Fist of Fury, that's something that is very unique inside Weapons of Order. As long as you have Storm, Earth, and Fire and Weapons of Order up, you're going to want to use Fist of Fury and then cancel your channel after 1 second. We talk about that more on the advanced page, and I'll talk about that more when I go through the video here in a moment. Then you have other things, your chi generation abilities, Fist of Fury, just to enable Whirling Dragon Punch, stuff like that. Spinning Crane Kick, if you're high, you shouldn't really be a problem. You should not really get down here in most situations in the priority. So the biggest thing when it comes to Weapons of Order is understanding where your haste is at. So I pull up this a little bit bigger. Right, that was useless. Okay, so all right, so down here we look at this image. Uh, there we go. That's it in a better spot. So based on how much haste you have, that decides what abilities you cast in between Rising Sun Kick. So as you see, right here, this is going to be kind of your standard chunk of information. This is what's important, right? So 0%, a lot of people, you're going to spend most of your time at this 0% unless you have an external buff. Some people might be up here with this 11%. That is a technical breakpoint for haste, but it's not one that's really worth looking into or going too hard for. After that, at 25%, or sorry, let me start at the bottom. So at 0% haste, you can't fit Rising Sun Kick into its own buff, right? So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds. The buff falls off here, another filler, and here. So your idea is to use Blackout Kick twice. You can use Blackout Kick here as well, but it's not important. The fillers will be things like Fist of Fury, Whirling Dragon Punch, Blackout Kick, Tiger Palm, Fist of the White Tiger, stuff like that. Once you get up to 11% haste, if you just happen to have that naturally, that's when you get into, alternating Blackout Kick, filler, then back to Rising Sun Kick. This is still 5 seconds, or this is 6 seconds, so you still cannot get Rising Sun Kick into its own buff. Once you get above 25%, whether that's through Bloodlust, whether that's through Invoker's Delight, the Legendary, whether that's through Power Infusion, anything like that, you're unlikely to get here without one of those three. But once you're here, this is where Rising Sun Kick starts to fit inside its own buff. And this is where the bread and butter of the Kyrian ability really is. So most of the time, if you just have one of those three up, you'll be in this area, 25% to 66%. That's where you can use Rising Sun Kick, Blackout Kick, filler, Blackout Kick, Rising Sun Kick. This is a nice, very methodical way of going about things. And that's where you're going to go through the priority and kind of work your way down with those fillers being what's in there. Once you get up to 66%, that's where maybe you have Invoker's Delight up and Bloodlust is active. You're going to be over that 66% threshold. That's when you can fit in an additional filler. So you might fit in Fist of Fury here and then use Tiger Palm to get some of that chi back, or Fist of the White Tiger, Whirling Dragon Punch, stuff like that. And so these two areas, whether it's Rising Sun Kick, Blackout Kick, filler, Blackout Kick, or Blackout Kick, filler, Rising Sun Kick, those are where you're going to spend most of your time, because while you have Weapons of Order up, most of the time you're going to have Invoker's Delight up, at least for 20% of that or so. Invoker's Delight is a 20-second buff, and Weapons of Order is a 30-second buff, so you're going to spend a chunk of your time, especially at the start of a fight, when everything is up in that window. And you get into the Bloodlust window up here, and stuff like that. So you're pretty much going to always, if you have Bloodlust, and I'll talk about that in the video here separately, if you have Bloodlust going, you're going to be, just Bloodlust, you're going to be in this 25% or higher window. If you have Invoker's Delight, you'll be in this 66% or higher window. And then when ID falls off, if you have Bloodlust as well, if you have both, you'll be in this window up here. When it falls off, when Invoker's Delight falls off, you'll still have Bloodlust, so you'll just drop down to here. So it's really not that big of a deal. The biggest difference is when you are casting it outside of Lust. And that's when you're going to be casting it between, Invoker's Delight is up, and then when Invoker's Delight is down for those 10 seconds, you're going to be down here. Probably in this 0% or 0 to 11% window, and that just takes getting used to. You'll see in my weak auras, I include there's a small one that tells me my haste percentage. It changes colors as well as adds additional exclamation marks depending on what my haste is at, so you can figure that out yourself. It just makes it a little bit easier for me to understand what my order is going to be. This 100% or higher thing, you're only going to get here with Bloodlust, Invoker's Delight, and something like Power Infusion. So if you're able to get that puts you into this upper echelon of Rising Sun Kick, and that's where you're using Rising Sun Kick, Blackout Kick, filler, Rising Sun Kick, and repeat. You're not using Blackout Kick as often. You're able to get a lot more Rising Sun Kicks in. That's where Power Infusion is very useful for a Windwalker if you're able to get it when it's stacked up with everything else. Similarly, if you don't have Bloodlust, Invoker's Delight plus Power Infusion should take you here into this window, or this tier of damage windows and stuff like that. So that's where you worry about that. So that's where it's important to know where your haste is at and what abilities you're able to fit inside this window. And that's going to depend on things. So when you talk about things like Expel Harm, things like Chi Burst or Chi Wave, Expel Harm has a half-second global cooldown instead of a 1-second global cooldown. So it's something, and you'll see that in a little bit, where you can use Expel Harm to kind of bridge the gap between. You'll notice these haste differences are a little bit different. But again, you're only going to be able to use Expel Harm once, twice, maybe 3 times during that 30 seconds. Most likely twice, with most of the time, either being once or twice. It's theoretically possible to do it 3 times, but you're probably not going to. You have to have Strike with Clarity up and be using Expel Harm probably earlier in the priority than you would want to be doing generally. Right, so let's get into actually watching it. So the first thing that I'll do is pull up kind of your standard opener. This has Invoker's Delight. I don't have Bloodlust here, but you'll see the difference in what I'm able to cast in the first couple seconds. So again, with your opener, the opener that I like to do, as long as I'm not using hit combo, is to open with 1 chi from Expel Harm, and you'll see that here. 15 seconds in, you use the 1 chi, that way Expel Harm is up. You'll have 1 chi going into a fight, and then I'm not using hit combo, so you'll see I do Tiger Palm in order to get to 5 chi. And this was kind of Trill's idea. You lose a little bit of mastery damage on this second Tiger Palm, but if you're not using hit combo, it's really not that big of a deal. If you are using hit combo, then what you're going to want to do is not worry about Expel Harm before, but just go Tiger Palm, Fist of the White Tiger to be at 5 chi. So now I'm at 5 chi. I cast Zuen, Weapons of Order right after. They are both on the global cooldown, so it does have to be one after the other. And then Spinning Crane Kick goes right into my abilities. So you'll see that, or not Spinning Crane Kick, Storm Earth and Fire. So Storm Earth and Fire, immediately after Weapons of Order, Storm Earth and Fire, Rising Sun Kick, right? And you'll see here I go into Fist of Fury. I cancel it, right? And I'll show you why I cancel it in a second, right? So Fist of Fury. And what you'll see is, and of course I can't really change things, but you'll see over here slightly, as my spirits bounce all over the place because I didn't fixate them, your spirits continue to cast Fist of Fury while you're casting. Or even though you've stopped, they continue to do it. Your spirits are incredibly stupid. And that's something we can take advantage of. So as you'll see, he's still over here casting Fist of Fury, whereas I've casted Blackout Kick. What's important is that they will also cast other abilities. So he did cast that Blackout Kick when I did. Right, so you see Rising Sun Kick, Fist of Fury. He's going to go over there and cast Blackout Kick, and he's going to hit with that Blackout Kick right there. That's Blackout Kick damage. Okay, and he's still hitting with Fist of Fury. Right, I'm going to use Expel Harm into another Blackout Kick, and that gets me into this Rising Sun Kick is available again window. Right, so I did this because I'm down here in this window, this 25% window. You see right here, 44% is less than 66%. Right, so I know that I'm down here in this window. What I can also do is that I'm right here, and the reason that I did this mostly because Trill said to do this, but the reason that I open with things like this, Rising Sun Kick, Fist of Fury, Blackout Kick, Expel Harm, Blackout Kick, is that you really only lose a very small amount of Rising Sun Kick cooldown, but you get 2 Blackout Kicks after Fist of Fury. So you take 4 seconds off of Fist of Fury, whereas if you're doing the normal Rising Sun Kick, Blackout Kick, filler, Blackout Kick, you're only getting 2 seconds back on Fist of Fury. So that's where that can be important. Right, so Rising Sun Kick is up again. I'm going to use it. Blackout Kick, Whirling Dragon Punch, Blackout Kick. I can do that because Rising Sun Kick here is going to be available, and I have 1 chi for that Rising Sun Kick. So I'm still in the buff. Blackout Kick, Fist of the White Tiger, Blackout Kick. Again, it's going to be available, so I'm going to use it here. Rising Sun Kick, Blackout Kick. I don't have... you'll see I delayed things a little bit because Storm, Earth, and Fire was about to fall off, so I didn't want to cast Fist of Fury right there because if the clones disappear, they don't keep casting it. So I used Tiger Palm even though Fist of Fury was up. If I had had Bloodlust available, Fist of Fury would have been up earlier. So you'll see that just as you go through practicing. This is something that is incredibly useful to practice. Right, so I put Storm, Earth, and Fire back out, refixated, did Blackout Kick, Tiger Palm, Blackout Kick, and Rising Sun Kick. So now I can go through the same thing that I did before. Right, Blackout Kick, Fist of Fury, Expel Harm, Blackout Kick. I could fit all that in to get an additional chi and be able to use Rising Sun Kick. So now you'll see that my haste indicator drops down to 8%. So Invoker's Delight is over. That buff goes right here. Invoker's Delight is over. So it becomes impossible for me to fit Rising Sun Kick inside of its own cooldown. So you'll see that things get a lot slower. I can fit a lot more in. Right? I don't have to... I want to get Rising Sun Kick back as quickly as possible, but I can't get it back inside its own cooldown, so don't sit on things to try. Right? Blackout Kick, Tiger Palm, Blackout Kick, Tiger Palm. You know, I had more room for fillers. Blackout Kick, Fist of Fury. The mistake I made here, and it wouldn't always be a mistake, right? But if you see, I've got the Rising Sun Kick buff up, and Weapons of Order is coming up. So if Rising Sun Kick was available here, I would want to use that just to keep that chi reduction going. So that's something you also want to be wary of, that sometimes it's good to switch things up a little bit just to get that last extra chunk of Rising Sun Kick cooldown reduction. Right, so Fist of Fury is up. I didn't have Storm, Earth, and Fire or Weapons of Order up, so I shouldn't have canceled that Fist of Fury. But yeah, so because it wasn't going to get me really anything. It wasn't going to get me a chi reduced Rising Sun Kick. It got me, 1 chi reduced Blackout Kick, and that's not worth losing all of the damage of Fist of Fury. So you see this, then you just kind of go back into your regular rotation, which you can see in the other video. All right, so that's inside of the window. That kind of shows the difference in once Invoker's Delight falls off, then what my abilities change. So, again, with Invoker's Delight, I'm up here in this one. Without it, I'm down here in this one. All right, so now this next one I'll pull up. I had a hunter friend of mine come to cast Bloodlust for me. So again, I'll do the same thing. Expel Harm at 15 seconds just to start with 1 chi. He's going to cast Bloodlust on pull like you would in a raid fight. I took off Invoker's Delight on this because I wanted to show you the entire kind of 30-second window. Certainly with Invoker's Delight and Bloodlust, like I talked about, you can vary things a little bit, but really it doesn't have to be too dramatic. If, when you're looking at this, if you're up here, if this filler here is another Blackout Kick, it's not the end of the world. Especially if Fist of Fury is on cooldown, it's not a bad thing to do that just to get more chi reduction on Fist of Fury. So it's all that stuff you want to take into consideration. So these 2 windows here are not always going to be so disparate. All right, so we'll pull this up again, press play. Right, I like to cast Tiger's Lust 5 seconds before just so I have it when I'm running in. Chi Wave on the pull. Right, I use Tiger Palm back to back. I'm at 5 chi now. Zuen, Weapons of Order, and I go in. So you see I'm still in this 41% with Bloodlust. I'm still, above that 25% threshold, so I'm still casting certain abilities. Still doing clipping things with, it's the same opener as before. Fist of Fury, Blackout Kick, Expel Harm, Blackout Kick, Rising Sun Kick, Blackout Kick, Whirling Dragon Punch, Blackout Kick, Rising Sun Kick, Blackout Kick, Fist of the White Tiger, Blackout. Okay, so what I did there, and I probably shouldn't have, and you'll see that I paid the price for it. I should have cast Tiger Palm into Blackout Kick, or no, I'll go back a little bit. Right, so so now I'm at 2 chi, right? I shouldn't have cast Fist of Fury there. Okay, I have enough resources. I'm going to use Blackout Kick, Fist of the White Tiger, and then what I did was I used Fist of Fury when I should have used Blackout Kick. Because the mistake that I made there was casting Blackout Kick after. If I cast Fist of Fury there, I should have canceled it with Rising Sun Kick instead of canceling it with Blackout Kick. But because I canceled with Blackout Kick, my Rising Sun Kick buff fell off before I could use Rising Sun Kick again. So I had to generate more chi in order to use Rising Sun Kick. So Rising Sun Kick is up. I should have had Storm, Earth, and Fire up when I cast this Rising Sun Kick so that they get the damage. Fixate them because I'm using the conduit. And then I'm, again, back into it. Rising Sun Kick, Blackout Kick, Expel Harm, Blackout Kick, Rising Sun Kick, Blackout Kick, Fists, Blackout Kick, right? And because I messed that stuff up earlier, I did not have the chi that I needed. So I needed to have looked ahead, and when I'm here, right, and thought, okay, I don't have the chi to use Fist of Fury and Rising Sun Kick. I need to Blackout Kick, Tiger Palm, Blackout Kick. Because then, if I had Blackout Kick, Tiger Palm, Blackout Kick, I'd be at 4 chi. I would have been able to use Rising Sun Kick to get down to 3 chi. I could have Blackout Kicked, Fist of Fury, then Blackout Kick, Rising Sun Kick, and stuff like that. So that was a mistake on my part. You'll see here what was important was trying to get this last cooldown in, right? So I got Rising Sun Kick done on the last second, or towards the last second of this buff. So this cooldown reduction is going to continue, which is a good thing. So I still get, a free Blackout Kick, Tiger Palm, Blackout Kick, stuff like that. I was outside of Bloodlust, so I wasn't going to be able to get, that Rising Sun Kick into that reduced cost at that point. But that's kind of what you want to do. So, again, the big importance is going through Rising Sun Kick, getting as much as you can. This is something that it's going to be very useful to practice. Go sit at a target dummy. Go, get a hunter friend, a shaman friend, a mage friend to come through and help you practice this stuff. Go through a bunch of different times. When you are in a fight and things are coming up again, you're going to want to treat it as if it's the opener. You're going to want to go into it with 5 chi, or if you have Ascension, 6 chi, and then do the same thing. Zuen, Weapons of Order, Storm, Earth, and Fire, Rising Sun Kick, and get moving from there. Ascension can be useful. It gives you that extra chi to play with, so you'll run out of chi a little bit less. But you also don't have Fist of the White Tiger to get the chi back. So there's not a big difference in Fist of the White Tiger versus Ascension when you're here. Expel Harm will generally be a little bit more difficult because you're going to be using a lot of that energy, or you're not going to be using a lot of that energy that Expel Harm generates. So you'll see on our page, this is roughly what I did. Certainly, could have been done better. But this is looking at, not having Invoker's Delight, with Bloodlust. Or this would be the same if you did have Invoker's Delight, but not Bloodlust. So again, it's all about practicing. You really want to understand what you're going to be casting at the different levels. So again, having a weak aura or something, I have my haste down here as well. I just wanted something to include it up here. So if you go into my weak aura package, it's there. You can grab it out or take the whole one if you want. But yeah, Weapons of Order is not difficult, but it takes a lot of practice and a lot of learning and adjusting and understanding where you're at. I found that having that haste percentage is enough because I know, based on the color, where I'm at in terms of what I need to cast, stuff like that. But like I said, in general, if you have 1 or 2 buffs, you can get away with Rising Sun Kick, Blackout Kick, Filler, Blackout Kick, Rising Sun Kick. You could then, if you have 2 buff, you could do other things like, okay, I could Fist of Fury into Tiger Palm to get that chi back and have that be chi neutral. There's stuff like that. It's all about experimenting and learning and practicing and stuff like that. So I hope you found this useful. Pointed out a couple of my mistakes as well. I will probably put together a video on how to do this in an AoE situation once I feel that I'm more comfortable doing it in an AoE situation, which I'm not. I don't currently feel like I am enough to do a video on it. But hopefully this was useful in terms of single target and help to kind of explain a little bit of the Weapons of Order and a little bit of the Fist of the Fury clipping, which I'll probably put in another video as well. So thank you very much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. Go into the description to see where you can get more information on this stuff in the Peak of Serenity guides, as well as ways to support me through Patreon and PayPal. Feel free to comment, suggest other things you'd like me to make videos on. Let me know where I can improve and whatnot. And I'm still figuring all this stuff out. So thank you very much for watching. And until next time, have a good night, morning, afternoon, whatever it is, wherever you are.